Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Mason or UniqueGeese, and I'm the creator and project lead on Indigo Park. Indigo Park is a first-person indie horror game where you break into an abandoned theme park and meet the park's AI assistant, Rambly the Raccoon. This is an absolute passion project that's been put together by me and a group of buddies who have never actually made a game before. A little over a year ago, I opened Unreal Engine for the very first time and put together a fan game. And that's really the first ever time that I've been exposed to a game. So I'm really proud of how far we've come, but I also completely understand that Indigo Park Chapter 1 is just a taste in the very beginning of what we want to do. A few weeks ago, we released Chapter 1 completely for free on Steam, and the reception has been insane. The amount of playthroughs, fan art, fan songs, you guys have been blowing this game up. And for that, I can't thank you guys enough. It's been absolutely insane to see the reception. Now, I'll admit, I'm a bit of an anxious guy, so sitting there looking at social media every day was like really messing with my mental. So I tried my best to kind of take a break from social media and not really pay attention to a lot of the stuff. And while I feel a lot better about it mentally, that's not great for communicating with you guys on how the game's going and how our fundraising efforts are going. So I wanted to make a quick video today to kind of give you guys a rundown of what the future of the game looks like, a lot of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, and kind of just keep you guys involved since this game is for you guys. So the biggest thing that we got to talk about is, of course, the Kickstarter. When we released Chapter 1, we set up a Kickstarter with a goal of $50,000. After all of the fees and everything associated, which I'll get into, this would have meant that I can pay my artist what I believe is a little bit more of fair pricing compared to what they did in Chapter 1, but I would still have to be living pretty modestly, maybe even pick up a minimum wage job to make sure that we can get the game out. All stuff that I was willing to do. But now that you guys have blown this out of the water, I'm confident to say that we'll be able to work on this full time, and Chapter 2's scale is going to be so much bigger than anything that any of us could have ever expected. Like a bunch of other Kickstarters, our plan was to announce stretch goals as we hit different goals throughout the campaign. But every single time that we sat down and we were budgeting out, okay, what's viable? What can we actually do with this money? You guys were hitting goals before we could even get it planned out. And the last thing that we want to do is create any kind of false promise for you guys. I've seen a lot of Kickstarters get kind of wrapped up in the stretch goals. Maybe it's for a video game and they promise like an animated series. Suddenly, you're not just making a video game, you're making an animated series, which is a whole nother thing. Or any other kind of stretch goal that could affect the game directly may take away from the core experience that we're wanting to create. So yeah, to avoid any issues with budgeting and to make sure that our goals are locked onto Chapter 2 and making it the best that we possibly can, we've decided not to include stretch goals. However, I want to be very clear with you guys. We are going to be extremely vocal about where this money is going. The last thing I want to do is like put out Chapter 2 and then people be like, okay, so where did that money go? Did you just pocket it? Because all of the money from any kind of fundraising that we do will go directly back into the game and back into the company. So what's the plan exactly for Chapter 2? One of the coolest things that we're going to be able to do now with Chapter 2 is allocate more money to our artists and creatives. A big part of what makes Indigo Park is a lot of the creative ideas, art, and really just stunning visuals that we're able to create. Whether that's 2D animations with Rambly, or bringing on new people to design more scary monsters, or creating more complex environments. It's really important to us that this game has a lot of creative love into it, and being able to have the budget to really do what we want to do is going to be absolutely life-changing for this game. Of course, Chapter 1 was put together completely by me with very minimal knowledge of coding. So I'm fully aware of a lot of the bugs and issues with Chapter 1. So I'm going to be able to bring on a few people who have experience with coding in Unreal Engine and optimizing games to really break down and make sure this game is the best that we can make it. Again, I want to be completely transparent with you guys about how development is going and where money is going for the game. So on social medias like Twitter and over on the Kickstarter, I'll be trying to post some updates about what's new in the game without trying to spoil too much, if that makes sense. One thing that I really want to be clear to you guys is that there's a lot of moving parts going on behind the scenes. It's really easy to look at the Kickstarter and think, oh, that's how much they're going to put into the game. But there's a lot that you have to consider. We're operating out of the United States, so there's going to be a giant tax cut that comes out of the production of the game. There's production of physical objects for the Kickstarter. There was a handful of things that you could have bought that now have to be produced and signed and shipped to you, and all of that does take quite a bit of money, so a good chunk of the Kickstarter funding is going to go into taxes and that, Not to mention Kickstarter takes like a 10% cut of whatever number it ends up at the end. So again, I want to be completely honest and clear with you guys whenever we're doing anything with that money, and we want to make sure that we aren't creating any false promises and make sure that we're spending the money very wisely when it comes to production of this game. I would argue that a good month of this game is literally just going to be me budgeting out and trying to figure out what rates for everyone are, and it's a lot of like behind the scenes moving stuff. So that's why I haven't had too much like exciting stuff to say about the game. The current game plan with Chapter 2 is hopefully by the end of July, we'll have budget stuff figured out, money will be able to be used, and we'll be able to start paying our artists to begin production on Chapter 2. If you want an honest goal timeline for us, Chapter 1 took a little over a year to develop, and because we're trying to make Chapter 2 even bigger and better in every way that we can, I'd estimate like around a year and a half of development time minimum, but again, we'll keep you guys up to date on that. I want to be very, very vocal about the development of this game with you guys. So yeah, the future of this game is looking really, really bright. There's just a lot of moving pieces in the background that we really want to make sure that we're doing right for you guys so that you know that the money is being spent in a very ethical and proper way. And we really, really appreciate your guys' patience. Within the span of a couple of weeks, I've gone from like making YouTube videos out of my apartment and like maybe putting together a game to basically like running an entire company. And I'm very, very confident with the future of this game. But again, I appreciate you guys being very patient with us as we're working through a lot of this stuff. There's also a couple of big questions that I've been getting that I would love to answer for you guys in today's video. One of the big ones is, are you guys working on merchandise and are you aware of all the bootlegs? Right now, over on the Makeshift website, we have really our only piece of merchandise, which is the Rambly plush. That's available for another 10-ish days. But in all honesty, I think we're more concerned about making sure this game is good and strong before we go and push out a bunch of merch. I'm actively going to be working on a ton of updates for Chapter 1. In fact, there should be one coming out in the next few days with like a couple minor things, and then we'll be going on trying to do more optimization, figure out some stuff with controller support. I have a whole list of bugs and stuff that I want to fix, and I'd rather not prioritize time into, oh, let's make all of this stuff. That being said, we are working with a couple different companies to potentially handle some merchandise launches. Really, the future is just going to tell on that. We're very aware that you guys do want merchandise and it would be beneficial for the development of the game in the future. But yeah, just give us time. We'll have official merch. As far as the bootlegs, we're very aware. We're going to be actively trying to take down some of the more like threatening bootleg stuff on bigger websites. But unfortunately, whenever you create something that's a little bit bigger, one thing that you have to accept is that there's going to be people trying to like maliciously make money off of it, which does suck. It sucks a lot. So really all we can ask is you guys don't support bootlegs because one, it's just people trying to make money off of someone else's work. And two, the people putting out bootlegs for our game are going to be the same people making bootlegs for other games. So you paying into them to buy something could affect other development teams down the line because these bootleg companies now have more money to put into more bootlegs. It's a vicious cycle, okay? So I can't really stop you, but all I'm saying is don't buy the bootlegs. We'll have official merchandise for you guys eventually, but we're more concerned about getting the game in a good state and making sure that Chapter 2's development gets rolling steadily. Another question I've got is localization. There's a lot of people asking for different subtitles for the game, language options. That's something that we actively want to do, and that's something that we'll probably be looking into pretty early on with the Kickstarter budget. I would love to have a handful of languages that you can select through the game. I don't think we'll ever have dubbed languages, at least not for a long time, just because getting all of those voice actors on board and being able to have the language options switch could be fairly expensive. But I do think that doing translated subtitles so that if you don't speak English or if you have a friend who's in a different country who doesn't speak English will open up a lot of opportunities for people to play the game who previously wouldn't be able to. But that's something that we're actively looking into as well. But yeah, I'm not sure how well I explained everything in today's video, but hopefully that gave you guys a little bit more insight into what our plans are for the future of the game. A little TLDR. We're going to be budgeting now and trying to figure out everything for the game so that we can start production in late July. And then we'll be keeping you guys super up to date on how the progress of Chapter 2 is going. In the meantime as well, I can also recognize that what got me to where I am now is streaming and doing YouTube videos and talking to you guys and building a community. And the last thing I want to do is just abandon that completely. So here in the next week or so, we're going to be back to live streaming and doing my normal YouTube videos on top of game development. To me, I think that makes a lot of sense as a way to kind of step away from the game dev side of things, be able to interact and stay in touch with you guys as far as what you like and what you want. And I also just really enjoy streaming and chatting with you guys. So we'll be live here on YouTube and on Twitch here in the next few days, and then hopefully a lot more often. So thank you guys all again for your support on Indigo Park Chapter 1. I'm fully aware that it's a buggy mess, and I'm fully aware that people are having issues with it, but I'm going to do my best to actively work on updates before we get Chapter 2 out, and hopefully Chapter 2 blows Chapter 1 out of the water. So, thank you guys for everything. I love you all, and have yourselves a damn good one.